Barnes & Noble? Barnes & Noble has a problem, okay? We got a problem on our hands. Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Caitlin J. Reeds, and I want to jump right into today's topic. But before we do that, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, okay? But today we are talking all about what is going on with Barnes & Noble, all right? So there's a lot going on in the publishing industry right now. Jess Owens made a really great video about the acquisition of Simon & Schuster by Penguin House and the lawsuit that is happening by the Department of Justice against Penguin Random House. And I thought that was really excellent coverage. But I haven't seen too many people talk about this issue, and I think it's because it hasn't been confirmed by the CEO of Barnes & Noble yet. His name is James Daunt. It hasn't been confirmed by James Daunt yet, but with inside sources from the industry, like agents, publishing executives, authors, we are seeing a trend that is leading to this business decision, and it kind of falls into play with other things James Daunt has done in Barnes & Noble policy. So first, let's start off, who is James Daunt? So James Daunt is the man who revived Waterstones Bookshop in the UK. They were going bankrupt, I believe, somewhere around 2013 maybe. And then he pretty much revived Waterstones and made it into the megalith that it is today in the United Kingdom. Flash forward to, I believe, around 2019. James Daunt becomes the CEO of Barnes & Noble, and he does a couple of things. Let me pull up my article. So I have a couple articles I'm going to reference within this video, but right now I'm looking at Book Riot's article written by Jen Northington. Basically, the two policies that he put in place in 2019 was downsizing the central office, formerly responsible for filling orders and stuff of this nature, and allowing store managers to have greater discretion and control over what they stock in their stores. And the second one is limiting co-op displays, or pay to display, to put in more practical language, in which publishers can purchase premium placement for specific roles. This sounds pretty good in theory. This means that more localized managers can pick and choose what books they stock based on local sales, right? But it's so much more than that, all right? With the advent of TikTok, all right, we see a lot of older books coming back into popularity. To name a few authors, we have Colleen Hoover. Tahara Mafi is becoming popular once again. Sorry for the lighting change, all right? All right, I apologize for that. Didn't see that coming. Well, we have Colleen Hoover, who has regained popularity, the Legend trilogy, the Shatter Me series, and something we all have in common, something those all have in common, they're older books, all right? And they're coming with paperbacks, all right? Paperbacks, okay? So with this being the case, couple that with smaller tables, less space for, those co-opted, most likely being paid by the publisher, its new debut authors. That's less space for new hardcovers and just more space for these paperbacks that have been around for a while to thrive. And I don't know if you've been in a Barnes & Noble recently. I have. Every single table is filled with paperbacks. I wonder if I have a clip that I can insert, but every single table is filled with paperbacks. So what has come of this? Many middle grade authors have been starting to make a buzz because many middle grade hardcover releases are not being stocked in any Barnes & Noble, finding it really hard for really any author to break through that sphere and get their book in. Most notably, we have author Gabby Barton, who laid out a thread of what's going on with Barnes & Noble on her Twitter. And it specifically affects, middle grade authors, marginalized authors, Black authors, debut authors. And this is something that we should be paying attention to. Other authors include Brittany S. Lewis with her debut novel, The Undead Truth of Us, which was turned away due to the fact that there was no way she could prove she can sell it. She tweeted, "I don't know if I've cried more. This directly affects me. It will/has impacted my sales. Because my book isn't the book of the season, it means you won't find it in that store and grab it off the shelf. My black voice isn't worthy enough. I've waited 10 years for a slap in the face. So basically, we're starting to see the trend of a lot of authors not getting picked up with their debut hardcover novels or new release hardcover novels by Barnes and Noble. Why? Especially for a lot of these debut authors. So we're seeing this already begin to start as a trend for middle grade debut authors specifically. But why is this a problem and why should we care? I think it's pretty obvious why we should care, but let's just go a little more into detail about it. So it directly affects the discovery of new authors, new books, especially from people in marginalized communities and, like I said, debut authors. How are you supposed to prove that you can sell a book if they won't let your book in the store? Huh? Do you want to explain that to me? Because it doesn't make a whole bunch of sense. All right. So basically, wrapping back to my comment earlier about TikTok, from the Book Riot article, I feel like this quote sums it up really perfectly. If the only hardcovers you can find at your local branch are also the ones that are on the bestseller list, which are also the ones getting marketing dollars, which are also the ones that the algorithms are suggesting to you online, then chances of, say, a debut author from a marginalized community getting their book in front of your face long enough for you to see it and consider buying it are lower than ever. And I feel like that is just a really, really powerful quote. It's just solidifying how much harder it's going to be for people in those communities, debut authors, to break their way through, especially since a lot of our book buyers are unfortunately going to places like Barnes and Noble to get their books, all right? It's a really big problem. And what's the solution to this? Is the solution going viral on TikTok and getting money dumped into your book and being able to get published by one of the big 5 publishing houses, soon to possibly be big 4? That seems just like a fucking disaster, okay? Because the same people on the bestseller list are the same people that we always see there. It's so hard to break through. So next I want to go into what I'm going to call the paperback effect, okay? Let's bring back in our good friend James, okay? CEO of Barnes & Noble, once CEO of Waterstones, that completely revived the company. What was his solution? A lot of it was to narrow focus on paperbacks. That is what people like to buy. So we've seen, again, this push for paperbacks because whether it be older books that are getting that algorithm online or just books being published straight to paperback, we are getting that push of paperback, those smaller tables not having any space for hardcovers and less space for hardcovers on the shelves for Barnes & Noble, on those tables for Barnes & Noble. We are going to start getting more and more paperbacks. What would be the reasonable solution to this to me? Would just to flip-flop the publishing order. But I don't work in publishing. I don't know how simple that is. Why don't we start with a published paperback and then if the sales are proven, we can go to hardcover, but I digress. But with a looming recession, if you live in the United States, and rising prices, again, from that Book Riot article, hardcover book sales have been down 12.4%, and that's only going to rise with the rising cost of books. What are people going to want to take? A $35 hardcover, $30 to $35 hardcover, or that $15 to $20 paperback, even though both of that sounds ridiculously expensive to me. That's just kind of the world we live in right now. Post-COVID, recession time, yay. But with the American recession looming, paperbacks just seem to me like they are going to come on the up and up by both publishers and buyers. And because of that point above, naturally, because publishing just doesn't switch overnight, because a lot of debuts that are going to happen within the next 3 years are going to be hardcovers, we are going to see a plummet in the sale of hardcovers for debut authors, marginalized communities. It's going to be ridiculous. Okay, we're already starting to see that plummet right now, and it's just only going to get worse if places, big conglomerates like Barnes & Noble, take away the space for debut authors, for those hardback covers. It's crazy, the fact that you have to prove that you have you have to prove it can sell. That's not the point of a bookstore, all right? And that's going to completely hinder discovery, completely hinder diversity, and we're going to get the same recycled plots, authors, stories we are getting constantly, instead of new and fresh material, because it's not being put in front of our eyes. We're less likely to grab it unless you're watching a video like mine or another person on YouTube that's recommending books. But the average person just is not doing that, okay? So this is a big deal. This is a big, big deal. And like I said, why the publishing industry just doesn't flip to the debut being in paperback, and then after having that sales proof going to hardcover, I don't know. But even if they eventually do make that shift as a product of the recession, it still won't be for a couple of years. These projects take time. It takes time to publish a book. So it's just not going to happen overnight. And a lot of these contracts being signed now, signed last year, the year before, are all going to be greatly affected by this policy decision. I can't stress that enough. Plus, also, the sales and everything of a debut author's work greatly, greatly, greatly affects the advance that they get from their publisher next time. It can help the agent with leverage for the publishing for their next book. They can talk about the sales of their debut, especially physical copies of their debut. But if we have bookstores actively limiting hardcover space, actively limiting space for debut authors, actively eliminating space for authors from marginalized communities, we are going to just become a echo chamber of the same exact things. And that's just not what this is. That's not what reading and exploring and reaching for the stars is for. You know, it's to read about everything, every single thing, you know, that you possibly can within your fucking lifetime. And the fact that we're actively getting pigeonholed to people like Stephen King and Colleen Hoover is heartbreaking to me. It fucking is. So how can we change this? How can we help our authors from marginalized communities, our debut authors that we, you know, happen to find online, because that's the only place you could ever really find people these days? The free option, all right? Let's start there. Request it from your local library. Request that your library gets a hardcover of whatever book it may be, whether it's a debut, whether it's an author you really love. Request it from the library and check it out. Check it out from the library. Whether or not you read that copy, check it out. So that way, that proves, you know, library sales are a big part of sales for the author. So the more that you request those debut authors, those authors that are your favorite, that don't seem to get the fame and the acclamation they deserve, make sure you go to your libraries, check out their books if they have it, request it if they don't, especially in hardcover form, since we are actively having a decline, okay? Shop local, you know, if you want to shop. Buy from an independent bookstore. They do a ton of work in book discovery, and if they don't have your book, I am so positive, so sure that if you just approached a staff member at the bookshop, they will be able to get it in for you. Unless you're looking for I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, that is nowhere, okay? But make sure that you are going and shopping independent. Bookstores like Barnes & Noble are obviously only there to line their pockets to make the most profit, okay? Barnes & Noble isn't going anywhere. Every time I walk into that store, because unfortunately, it's the only store around me. Every time I walk into that store, it's filled with people, okay? They're not going anywhere. So shift your focus somewhere else. Try to shop more independent, more local. That's what my mission for the rest of the year is, to really look into the local bookshops around me, because, you know, odds are there are a couple that I have missed. So yes, shop independent bookstores. And lastly, let's explore more independent publishing. This is another goal of mine for this year. Explore more independently published works. If you read Legends and Lattes, oh God, by Travis Baldree, even though that's getting picked up by Tor Publishing. It was originally independently published. I have Gunmetal Gods on my TBR, The Sword of Kaigen on my TBR. Let's give more love to the people that are independently publishing. Let's go to their websites. If you want a physical copy, let's order it through their website. Let's go and fucking order it. The last place you order it is Amazon, okay? But if the only place you can get it is Amazon, go and get it. All right, let's start supporting independent authors and independent publishing so that way we can start. Obviously, it'll never be a real rival for any of the big 5 to 4 publishing houses, but if we get our foot in the door, then at least that is another option for authors to go to get their works out in the open, okay? But yes, that is why this is so important. Barnes & Noble has a big fucking problem, and this needs to be fixed, you know? This is not, the point of a bookstore is not to shove in your face what you're already getting shoved on your phone, okay? On the online algorithm. Going to a bookstore is almost a spiritual experience. And half the time you just pick books based off the cover, and that's completely okay. That's all a part of this wonder, mystery, and discovery that happens within bookstores. And if we were to go with this policy, that would completely shut down that discovery, that magic, that wonder that you get inside a bookstore when you're just getting Allie Hazelwood and Colleen Hoover shoved in your face and book talk tables. Every other table, you know? So yeah, give this video a like, comment down below. What do you think about this situation? Comment what you think about the situation with Penguin Random House versus the Department of Justice, because that to me is a whole can of worms. It is crazy, okay? Comment if you want me to make a video, but I really feel like you should just go and watch Jess Owen's video. I'll link it down below. It's a really good assessment of what is currently going on with that trial, all right? My name is Caitlin J. Reeds. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Yes, I am wearing my one and only One Direction Up All Night hoodie. Okay? In honor of Zayn Malik posting that beautiful thing on Instagram.
Everything that you ever dreamed of disappearing when you wake up. But there's nothing to be afraid of, even when the night changes. It will never change me and you.
Alright, that's what this is in honor for. Anyways, alright, I digress. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Everything that you ever dreamed of disappearing when you wake up. But there's nothing to be afraid of, even when the night changes. It will never change me and